Welcome to our February. It's hard to believe it's already February, but February SCARC meeting. We've got a great turnout here in the room. Hopefully we've got a good feed going out, and I think a very interesting and exciting presentation, at least for me, in regards to Winlink, and particularly on the 2-meter side of things. So Winlink, something I think that has been kind of thrown around a little bit more, and I expect that Zach here will be able to clarify what it is, what it isn't, what it can do for us, what fun we can have with it, and all of that. So Zach Beese, WW0K, has a presentation here for us, and we'll turn the meeting over to him. 1 second here. All right, you are unmuted.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get going. The obligatory slide, and my glasses work between 10 feet and beyond, so I'm going to take them off for this so I can actually see my own screen. So I'm going to be having a Winlink RMS. It's a small presentation. It's mostly demo because I think you'll be able to get a little bit more of a feel for Winlink if we actually do the live demo and kind of go through some things. Additionally, Andrew Albinger is here, WW0I. No relation as far as the call signs. K and I were differing by like 2 characters, and it's completely unrelated. Had no idea when he got his call sign, and mine's a vanity call. I just picked a 2x1, and it happened to work out that way. So kind of an interesting fact there. Go on to the next page here. In this font, it makes the zeros and the numbers lowercase. So I don't know. I should have fixed that, but WW0K is a call sign. I was licensed in '94. I was a sophomore at Iowa State University, and a lot of the people I worked with at the Durham Computation Center, well, at least 3 or 4 of them were licensed hams, so I kind of got into it at that point. '96, while I was doing an internship in Cedar Rapids at NORAD, Joe Duzio was my Elmer there, and he basically sort of taught me the code with the code quick method, the flashcards, and I was able to pass that exam, and then moved on to Extra in 2004, again, still with the code requirement. So that was a lot of fun. I'm currently a participant in U.S. Army Mars, and I also participate in the Shares, which is sort of a DoD network, HF network between various shared resources that are critical infrastructure. So Department of Transportation, educational institutions, healthcare, so things that you would classify as critical infrastructure. There's an HF network dedicated to that. Presently, I'm into information security, and I'm the operations manager at Iowa State. So let's go ahead and go over kind of what Winlink is in a history. At a base level, Winlink is a system of digital communication services that use the internet, radio, and satellite. I'm not quite sure what the satellite piece is. I did get this sort of off of Wikipedia, but definitely the internet and the radio piece are there. I imagine you probably could, with APRS, get messages through something like ISS or other satellites, but I'm not quite sure exactly what the satellite piece is. It really started as a DOS program called AP-Link, which is for Amtor Packet Link. And think these are hardware modems back in the day, back in the 80s. So, you know, there weren't any of these software sound card type modems. You had to purchase, and probably for quite a bit of cash, some of these modems that would work over HF. So it was basically that in the beginning, only a radio link. And then kind of when the internet became more popular, they added a netlink portion of it to supplement, and it would basically connect an email gateway over the internet with radio-based messaging. So you could still do radio-to-radio messaging, but you could also do radio-to-internet through an email address, and then theoretically you could check in to an email gateway and get your internet messages through Netlink. So when Winlink and Netlink together. Finally, in the late 90s, they came out with Winlink 2000. Basically, 2000 was the buzzword. Everything was version 2000 in the late 90s to make it seem futuristic. But basically, they developed to be a more feature-rich email client. Basically looked like the email clients of the days, Eudora, Outlook Express, and some of those email clients back in the day. It still sort of looks like that as well, even today. But in the years since 2000 leading up to today, there's been a lot of basically soft modems that were integrated in with it. This gets people into Winlink without having to have a hardware modem. So you can basically use your sound card, just like if you do FT8 digital or any of the FL Digi pieces, you can use a sound card to modulate and demodulate a signal. So they have a few protocols that they use with that to allow you to get connected with another station or a gateway to send and receive radio mail, so to speak. The core component these days is Winlink RMS, which stands RMS as Radio Message Server. So that provides your messaging and your gateway to the internet if you send or receive email from an internet formatted email address. Basically, this particular protocol and system has been gaining a little bit more use for things like ARES and RACES, emergency situations. Emergency management has sort of adopted it, partly because it has the support for various forms like ICS 213 and some of the other message formats that are useful and passed as traffic, rather than pulling up FL Digi and doing RTTY or any of the other various waveforms. This sort of encapsulates everything and gives you an email and easy form-like interface. So if you go to winlink.org, it is your location for all of the information. They have quite a wiki of information on it. They do have a history piece. If you go to user programs, you can see various user programs. You'll notice that Winlink Express, which is the sort of winlink.org official client for the system, is only one of many. I believe the Win in Winlink sort of limits you to Windows. So if you're running a Mac or running Linux, there are other ones. I know Pat is a very familiar one to those that run this with Linux. But there are various options, and you can see some of the items here. And I will visit that website as well to sort of show you how I downloaded it. Here's a small snippet of forms. Now this is an eye chart, and I'll pull it up in the client as well, but you can see various Incident Command System ICS forms that are in here. They have general forms, radiograms, and RRI forms to use with RRI International, for instance. So there are a ton of template formats that you can use to pass around your data. So now let me attempt to launch Winlink here. I think I've already got it launched. All right. So this is the Winlink client, and this is if you end up going to here's winlink.org. And if you go to download, you'll notice there are sysop programs and user programs. The difference between the two is sysop programs is for folks who run gateways that basically sit there and listen for traffic like I'm running at home. Those are sort of meant to, you can schedule various frequencies. For VHF, I just run it all the time on 145.010. But for HF, based on propagation, overnight I run 80 meters, 40 meters and 80 meters. And then during the day, I do 20 meters and 15 meters. So you can sort of schedule the frequencies you listen on. And this does report to their Winlink website. And if you have the Winlink client and the modem associated with the particular protocol, it will attempt to pick stations that it based on propagation, but it will work without any internet connection. You can pick a station based on geography as well. So, but the user programs are what people would use as a client. The main one here is the Winlink Express install. I think I can maybe, yeah, that might be a little bit better. So the Winlink Express install essentially gets you the Winlink program, which is this right here. And you'll notice that there are various ways to open a session. Telnet's the easiest. If you've got internet connectivity, using Telnet Winlink essentially connects you via Telnet to one of their message servers, and you can send email that way. Which, if you're maybe denied internet connection, maybe the power's out and you don't have internet, or you're doing remote work at a location where you don't have internet, then you have various other options. Pactor, RDOP, Vara is very popular. So these are all essentially protocols that you can use with it. For instance, Telnet Winlink, I can just click open session and start, and it's basically going to go in and check my mailbox for messages. CMS is their message server. I don't know if it's consolidated or a common message server. I'm not quite sure, but it does establish an SSL connection, and basically it says, you got nothing, because nobody sent me anything lately. So jumping back to the download page, there's also a Vara modem, which for HF or VHF will work. It is a more robust connection. It does better with low noise. I'm sorry, does better with high noise scenario. So it's slightly better than Packet, and it does very well on HF with fading and QRM and those sorts of things. It is, however, not developed in the United States, and it is free for certain bandwidths, but you have to pay for a higher bandwidth speed. And you might think that's kind of bad, but the real way this is used by a lot of people that are, for instance, maritime. A lot of maritime people use this to send email out on the ocean. A lot of them use the Pactor protocol. And Pactor is a patented technology that you easily spend well over $1,000 for a Pactor modem. So it is nice that Vara is a good alternative to that. There's also RDOP, which is included with Winlink Express for HF. Again, Packet just plain old Packet in KISS mode works just fine for VHF. So if you've got a radio like a Kenwood D72 that has the TNC built in, or if you run something like Direwolf, you can easily connect with Packet using those pieces of software. All right, let me go back to the Winlink client. Let me close my Telnet session. Now, messaging. This is pretty easy. It's like an email client. The upper left piece is create a new message. Now, if I'm just sending it to a Winlink recipient, radio to radio, so to speak, I can put in something like WW0I. And if I don't put an @ and then something after it for an email address, it assumes this is a Winlink user that it knows how to route to, and it will place it on the message server. You can put in a subject. Let me just say latest ICS 213. Here you can select a template. If you go under standard templates and then ICS USA forms, ICS 213 is something that's commonly used for the incident command system as a general message. For those in Aries, they may have dealt with these before. What this does is it pulls up a canned HTML form in your web browser where you can enter things like the incident name, to, from, let's not do Mars, subject, latest info, date, let's go with 0202. Wow. Now, if it was only 2022, I could have done 020202, but let's go with 2359 Zulu. Here is a message approved by, I'm just going to put null in these. Now, if I submit this and it says, oh, you're entering form data, be sure it's secure, all that. It's like, oh, it doesn't look like it did anything. But if you go back to Winlink, it's gone ahead and put this all into this message format. It also embeds an XML document such that another Winlink user can pull this up in a nice web-based form and see it in the almost like you printed an ICS 213 form. So everything is familiar in what locations it is. The reason this text is here is sort of just to give you a, oh yeah, that's kind of the stuff that I entered. So I will go ahead and click post to outbox. So this is going to send to Andrew essentially. Now, it's just going to sit here in my outbox forever until I connect to something. Telnet would work over Wi-Fi, but let's do it via radio. So what I have is, again, a Kenwood D72, which has a built-in TNC. So I'll go ahead and turn that on. And for my session, I'm going to use Packet Winlink instead of Telnet. Then I'll click open session and it's going to sit there and it's going to look for the COM port. Obviously you have to, oh, my bad. It's gone ahead and made a connection. I'm connecting to myself. So this is at my home. I have, and I've got a slide on what my setup looks like. All right, it's going to transfer. I do have a VNC connection connected at home. So you can actually see here as the packets come in, WW0K10, that's my radio here, and WW0K is my gateway station. So theoretically, once it gets the message sent, you can see sort of a progress bar, which is now at 100%, and now it's disconnecting. So it has gone ahead and actually sent that particular message. Now, let's see, in this part of the demo, Andrew, do you want to go ahead and see if you can receive the message? And I will pull up. Yep, no problem. I'm going to show you the pieces of this system that are on the gateway side. So this is a desktop I have running at home that runs virtual serial ports for a lot of it. Here's RMS Packet. This is one of those sysop programs that I was on the download side. So it's basically sitting there, and if I go to like site properties, I basically have configuration. I run 24/7, shows my grid square. And this is for people that if they're traveling the area, they want to see what they can connect to. They don't know what frequency or what call sign to connect to. So this gets stored in a database and gets pushed down to clients periodically. Essentially, my email address, phone number, what frequency I'm running, those sorts of things. Ooh, lucky I'm running on battery. This is Direwolf, and this is what's running as my, since I do not have a TNC at home or a radio like this, I'm just using a plain VHF UHF mobile rig, 50 watts, and I do have a DIN8 cable that runs into a signal link, and then signal link is connected, and I basically run Direwolf to listen to the packet protocol, so it talks KISS. So it should be running, I think, Andrew, if you want to attempt to connect and we can watch the Direwolf communication here. I'll maximize this. I'm not sure if I can zoom in or not. No, not so much. All right. So we can see WW0I is connecting to, oh, and I'm hearing it because clearly I'm on the same frequency as him, but it's not doing anything. This is essentially the conversation between Andrew's TNCX and, is it a Baofeng UV5R? Yep. Okay. And a signal stick antenna. My house is about maybe 1.5 miles as a crow flies. I'm pretty close to 24th and Duff, so we have ideal propagation from here. Likely this is, oops, and I'm having a heck of a time controlling this. You've got stop this. A lot of hex going through because I did send Andrew that ICS form. And of course it has to send all that data. So it's going to take just a wee bit of time. It looks like it's sort of wrapping up. Green bars all the way across. All right. So why don't you go ahead and reply to that, and then I will see if I can pick it up from my side then. Yep.
Go to move it into the 213, or is that kind of a default?
Nope, that's not a default. So here's the, and let me see if I can make this bigger. Probably not. What I did was I typed who it was to, WW0I, and then I did select template up here at the top.
Oh, okay.
And that gave me a list of all sorts of forms. So if I, yeah, like they have like a weather form. Here's a severe weather report, for instance. Reporting party name, city, lat long, flood, hail size. So these are kind of various forms that have been developed for various organizations. ICS just happens to be one that a lot of people are familiar with if they've taken the FEMA training, are involved in ARES, the incident command system. The 213 is the general message, so you can kind of put whatever you want in it, but there are ICS forms for like welfare check and various other functions. There's like a ton. There's probably more than 100. I imagine 213, they probably don't have some, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the 213th form that they came up with. So basically you fill in the data in this and then you click submit, and then basically it goes back into Winlink and the data shows up here, and then there's an XML attachment. So then when you click send, it's just a matter of how do you want to connect to something out there. You can connect via packet in an HT, for instance, to a gateway. If you're on the internet and the internet's working, you can connect with Telnet and it'll just send it that way. If you have an HF radio and it enumerates USB, 7200, 7300 from ICOM are nice for that. Various Yaesus, or if you've got a signal link or anything you've got a sound card connected to, you can run those HF modems and do the same thing as well. And I will make a quick attempt to send an HF message with my station, because presently in this time frame between about 6 p.m. and midnight, I drop off of the HF Winlink network so that I can use my HF radio. That would be the time that I would use it. So I'm free to use it then for connecting out to something HF Winlink wise. Has it started sending, Andrew? I haven't been monitoring. Okay, good question. They're all, this is all, well, I think there are some for shares, but this is all, the stuff I'm showing is all ham bands. So if I pull up the WinLink Express client, the same one that I have running on this laptop, but this is, I'm using VNC to connect to my computer at home. Oh yes, and if you want a license for it, you can enter a key, but it's free. So I'm just going to say ignore it and remind me later. And there's later versions that I haven't upgraded yet sent, so I'm going to remind you later. All right, let me maximize this. Let's see. So if I want to attempt to send, let me do another quick message, and I'll send it to Andrew. Test. Whoops. Test. Push to my outbox. Now let me use one of the I can try to use RDOP. I believe I have that installed. Open session. All right, so now I can go through and say, hey, give me the best channel, for instance, and it's going to pick, I can click on forecast. This sort of gives you like a VOA cap or other sort of prediction based on time of day, band conditions, that sort of thing. This is for whatever reason is telling me to I guess it's kind of scanning through. It's on W9FE on 7013. And I guess I am trying to start to connect. So it's waiting for the channel to settle. Checking free channel. Let me just go to the next channel. Maybe somebody's using this one. Now it's KD7UHR on 7064. It's checking free channel. Found a free channel. So now if I click start, it's going to attempt to do the modem negotiation. And this is the little RDOP window here. Whether this works or not, I'm not quite sure. I don't even know if I'm on my vertical or on my NVIS antenna. So this could be interesting. Regardless, for purposes of the demo, it attempts to connect. You get a waterfall like you'd expect on anything like FLDigi. If it connects, then you basically are sending and acking, sending and acking, sending and acking. And it can take, we're talking 300 baud, 150 baud here, so it can take a while. But if you look, well, in my logs, I've got people that connect from all over depending on time of day. If it's 21 megahertz, I might be the best channel for somebody out in the middle of the Atlantic, right in the brightest part of the day. Late at night on 80 meters, I have a lot more, 9 land, sometimes Texas and 5 land that connect up that I happen to be the best channel for. So I do. Yes, if running, well, the client side, it will pick for you, but since I'm running battery's running low. Since I'm running the server side, let me pull up I have to go back to VNC, and Alt Tab won't work in VNC, but I should be able to minimize. Too many bars. Let me pull up the main.
Is anyone doing this with the ALE then?
No, actually, that's a question that's come up in the groups lately, because ALE would be a great way to establish, the best signal quality to send it, but they have not integrated it. So if you look on this, you'll see the last connection I had was from N7JRR. And if you look at my schedule, so I have a set up channels to scan. Here we go. So in Zulu time, I'm on 3584 from 7 Zulu to 11 Zulu, and I run RDOP and VARA. Then I switch to 40 meters on 7097 from 1200 Zulu to 1500 Zulu, 20 meters for about 3 hours. And then I'm on 15 meters until 2300 Zulu, which right now is about, that would be 23 minus 6, be 7 to 5 p.m. or so. So basically from 5 p.m. until 1 a.m. I've got it where I can just use the radio and it won't interfere with this. So
Automated drone.
this part is just, I just click the boxes. My radio through cat control, it's a ICOM 7200. It will go through, it will set the frequency. I have a Python script that runs and sends a cat command to hit the tune button, because I basically have a 43-foot vertical that has an AH4 tuner at the base. And when it changes frequencies, I can't get it to automatically tune. So I just have once an hour, it sends the tune command to the ICOM, and it seems to work just fine. So as long as I'm not operating it right at the hour change, then it works out okay.
Put that to an SG230 tuner and you won't ever have to worry about it.
If I can get a tuner that has memories in it, it will make my life a little easier.
It's automated.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There are definitely better options out there. It's just what I've gotten. I've got 2 AH4 tuners. I have one on an NVIS antenna that I use for Mars mostly. So, oh yeah, they work really well. So this is the sysop side of the setup. You run this RMS. By the way, this is RMS tri-mode. I'm not sure why it's called tri-mode, but maybe because it supports RDOP, VARA, and robust packet or something. And that's the 3 modes. If you run RMS relay, if the internet goes down, this thing will automatically store messages that I receive. So if somebody connects to me and says, I want to send to this Winlink user or to an email address, it'll queue up in here and periodically attempt to connect to the internet to forward it on. And it also, if a user connects to me and I'm holding a message and I don't have internet and the message matches, it'll pull it right out of the relay and give it to the person. So Aries or whatever else, if everybody's sort of using the same WinLink gateway, even in an internet denied or internet compromised situation, you can still use it as a message hub with no internet. So that's another one of the nice pieces of it, is that particular relay mode. Mhm.
Some kind of registration or coordination such that, you know, you're not gonna pick a frequency that someone else is using at a certain time of day? Or is it more gentleman's agreement kind of thing? How does that work on the infrastructure side, and nationwide or statewide?
Right. So I don't think there isn't a coordination like that. And part of the reason is it sort of depends on propagation. So if I'm on 7097, you know, in the 40 meter band, that may not interfere with anything most of the time, but then some weird, you know, solar incident or certain propagation, there might be another station that's on there. Now, the worst that'll do is the person calling gives the call sign. So both stations will get it, but one of them will say, oh, that's not for me. So you are sort of hogging the channel, but you're not really causing interference because only the guy who it's for is going to be the one that responds and then does the interaction.
The client would just pick one.
Right. Well, it doesn't say any station on this. It calls a specific station. So there is a database. So like when I'm connected with a schedule, if I change my schedule, battery's dead, that's fine. Sorry. So yes, my schedule gets pushed to the winlink.org scheduling piece, and then the schedule is periodically pushed to clients as they connect.
So the client would pick.
The right, and you can say like best channel, which it
Yeah.
defaults to,
I got you.
and it'll be like, oh, if there's a guy that's you know, within a skip zone on 80 meters and it's at night, the predicted propagation's pretty good. It'll try that versus some Australian station. Now, if it's 10 meters during the day, it might be a harder thing to predict.
That's sort of.
The client picks who to call based on, yeah,
It's not saying anybody out there gets.
right. And if you go to the winlink.org website, you can look and see they have a nice map, just like PSK Reporter or any of those you might have looked at. You can see where all the gateways are, what frequencies and what schedule they're on. So you can definitely, you know, coordinate that way. If you were going to run as a sysop or going to run a station, you could be like, okay, 80 meters at night. That might be a little bit more, I wouldn't want to step on somebody. So I'd, you know, click the states around me and see what frequencies they're running so I don't step on them. I don't know how much the WinLink people try to arbitrate frequencies and channels. I'm not sure there's enough stations that are equally readable from every station that it matters a whole lot. So, but there are easily hundreds of stations in the US running WinLink gateways. So you can probably from just about anywhere, if you've got a halfway decent antenna, probably hit one of them. So, let's see, since my laptop died, basically I was going to go into questions after the demo anyway. So that kind of works out. What other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Yes. So the fortunate thing about this Kenwood D72, which is a bit of a unicorn these days, is it has an actual micro USB port on it that you can hook a micro USB into a laptop, and it does the TNC. So it just speaks KISS protocol over the USB port. No TNC required. Nope. There's no, it's all terminated internally, and then it's KISS over USB. Well, probably a virtual COM port. I think it's COM4 on mine, but
Yeah. Is that a CW signal or sideband signal or what?
so for this, it obviously it's FM and packet as packet was defined with the the KNC3 plus and just standard amateur radio packet. So that's strictly for FM. You can also do VARA FM. That would require the sound card interface though, because there's no radio that would have VARA's protocol on it. In that case, you would need basically like a sound card and something to modulate the signal. On the HF side, that sends it's digital on my rig, but it's upper sideband for everything. So it sends an audio waveform, and the modulation just depends on the protocol. VARA is its own special thing. RDOP is another one that's its own special thing. Robust packet is something else, but they're all just different waveforms. Sort of like an FL Digi, you can pick, RTTY, BPSK, PSK8, all sorts of different protocols. So yeah, go ahead.
Pictures or pages that you can type in and send?
I'm not sure of the limit. Andrew and I have sent pictures.
Certain size, you can't go.
We know it'll at least do 100 kilobytes. Yeah, 100 kilobytes is fine because we've sent pictures back and forth to test it out. I'm not sure if you got over a megabyte, it might take, because that was what, 20 minutes to send the 100K? And that was using FM. I imagine HF is probably even worse. Yeah. Yeah, this is for sure is 1200, and yeah, 300 is probably a good day for HF. Yeah, essentially. But in general, the power of this is with modern radios, you have software modems. So if you have enumerated sound cards like with modern radios, or if you have something like a Signal Link USB or a West Mountain Radio, Rig Blaster, or Rig, I have one of those. You can easily, if you can do FL Digi, you can do WinLink. That's essentially it. You can send and receive email. This is great if you go POTA, SOTA, activation type stuff. You can update people if you're maritime, it's used for that. And then for the, cyber impaired or denied, using kind of the Mars terminology, if the internet's not there or you're in a disaster area or whatever, you should be able to get messages through. I've got a small amount of power backup on my Winlink RMS that, clearly if I had big power backup, then it would be available countywide or statewide, especially on something like 80 meters or something like that. So that's kind of the gist of it. And the user interface being nice to fill in forms. You get a web form, there's drop downs, there's easy text to put in. You can get those ICS 213s rolling for ARIES and those sorts of things. So it's it's been around for a long time, and I think it's gaining use just because of the framework around it. You can use all sorts of FL Digi modes to send data, but it's nice if you're like, well, what data is required? Oh, this wants to know, this is a hospital report, how many beds are available? Oh, okay, I can punch that right into the form and get it sent on its way versus just free form text and that sort of thing. So anyway, am I over time or?
No, you're good. I'm just moving around to make sure that we're capturing the
Yeah,
audio from
absolutely.
everybody. So
Any other? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, my head isn't on a swivel as much as I'd like.
Commented on the ICS form that had an option for XML.
Uh-huh.
Is that kind of generally supported then in software, or?
It is since it's within WinLink. So since you're sending two WinLink users, assuming say you've got ARIES on there, say your incident manager has one. If WinLink is used in ARIES, then people have WinLink. They'll be able to get it and see it'll render on a web page. And then you can just, if you've got a printer, you can just say print, and then it's in that ICS format, like somebody actually copied the words and the number of, the check words and all that stuff and filled it out. So it's in that format.
structured and semi-structured data.
It does, because you can make your own templates and build them. So if you're like, hey, we really want to know this specific set of info, you can save a template with those, I want to drop down and these 3 items, or this is a numerical field. You can fill in a number, how you can kind of sort of have a schema for it with XML. So you can build your own templates. As long as everybody has the template, then they'll be able to render the same output.
And we've actually done that at the county level. Jason put a bunch of work into a situation report that's
Okay.
used by Story County EMA, that as long as you've got the template, the data itself is very simple because it comes across, like you say, just as XML and plugs it into the fields there. So
So Zach sent me an ICS 213 during the demo. When I click on it, it pops it up in a web page that looks exactly like every ICS 213 form you've ever seen printed out. With sort of the idea that if the other end has Winlink,
It's
they're gonna
interoperable.
be like,
Yeah.
I know exactly what this is. There's
Yep.
no.
They periodically update the forms through software updates. In fact, I just downloaded one on this laptop that had more forms. So
It's pretty flexible, generalized data transfer protocol, which is what caught my interest.
yeah, exactly. It's extensible so that it can be taken and used by various. Sure. Yeah. If you want, yep. Absolutely could generate, if you got 10 records, you could get 10 messages generated. Just write the right Python XML parser and you're on your way. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So a question for you that really comes, I think, to the mechanics. You send a message to your node.
Uh-huh.
Your node retained that message?
It
Or did
retained that
send it on
message.
to,
And then in the meantime, by default for fastness, quickness, it connected via a telnet to the CMS gateway at Winlink
and dropped a copy out
and
there?
dropped a copy there.
Okay.
If there was no internet connection, it would just hold
It
it
would just
in
hold
that
it.
relay section, in which case, as long as the user connects that it's destined for, they could get it out of the relay
Right.
without it ever
So that,
hitting the internet.
that was really my question, is when you connected to the node,
Connected to his node reached back out across the internet.
pulled it off CMS and sucked it over.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I was just trying to understand if the internet was down, it still would have worked, but if you were not connected to his node and the internet was down, then
So if you had connected to somebody else's node, theirs would have gone up to the internet and pulled the message from you.
Yes. I think with shares, they're slightly more robust. I think you can, if you have the RMS relay is the piece that holds it if there's no internet connection. I believe they can duplicate between other relays. So if I connect to another relay as a relay, you can sync, and that way, if I'm trying to get something to Washington, DC, it's held on mine. It could go to Michigan and then get synced with something in Tennessee, and then eventually Washington can pull it off of there. Right. So there's synchronization between relays, but I haven't seen that on the amateur side, because typically, you've got one incident, if we're talking areas and incident command system, you've got somebody that's running it, and then you hope that everybody can, even if there's no internet, connect to the same node, whether it's HF or VHF, to get message between users or to the incident commander.
Like,
Yep. Sure. Yep.
although you could, I guess, develop a wider area,
You-
three-node system if you wanted to.
You sure could. Yeah. Mhm. Over the air. I don't think so. Yes,
It's encoded with the Bell standard modem.
it does encrypt to the message server though. Yeah.
There's actually a website where you can go in and it tracks all the Winlink and you can read the message, just kind of what people send.
that was
just
their
to monitor.
workaround. That was their workaround to the whole, it's encrypted at some point and
Yeah.
not accessible. That was their answer to the FCC shutting the whole thing down. is we'll just publish all the traffic on the internet.
Well, yeah, don't send private stuff over one. I mean, it's ham radio. It's just ones and zeros that you need to be able to decode. Yeah. Oh, sure. Redirected. Well, I think you could copy it and send another modified version if you wanted. But you'd get them both probably. I mean, you could just put down a carrier to denial of service. There's a lot of things you can do, just like you could on a voice communication over ham radio. You can interfere, cause QRM intentionally. So yeah, I mean, it's susceptible to those sorts of things. It is.
Any other questions or any questions online?
I'll put these back up.
Awesome. Well, thank you for
Yeah. you bet.
the engaging presentation.
Thanks.